So, welcome to episode 2 of the Solihull Small Business Podcast. I'm Mike Dingley.
I'm John Millington, and today what we're going to be talking about on this episode is if you are thinking of starting up a new business, or for example if you're in the early stages of setting up a business, we're going to be talking about a few sort of quick tips and a bit of advice for you just to help you to get to that first 50k, for example.
What we're talking about here is not so you're doing a little business on the side. We're talking about when you've just started a business but you're seriously looking to kind of replace your 9 to 5, so you're all in, but it is the early days of what we're talking. So we're talking like 0, like I said, to 50k a year type of thing. So a proper replacement of your job. And we've been talking about what the key elements of this are, and this will obviously differ as your business grows. But early doors, there's 3 I've kind of identified that I think are the main things that why I can only really talk why I got any degree of success you can call black and gold. But number 1. It sounds a bit cheesy, but it's your why are you doing it? It's the most important thing initially, I think. You've got to have some form of reason for kind of taking the risk of setting the business up. So early doors for me, I was probably guilty of not having a why. I kind of set black and golds up off the bat, kind of a necessity. I was made redundant, but I had an eye on doing properties up. So I was building background. I was looking, I'll pick the odd property up. So I kind of stumbled into it a little bit, and I think for the first few years, although it was okay, definitely we didn't it's not like black and gold hit the ground running and absolutely took off and took everyone out. But it was kind of the moment I got kind of my why is when I realised I was better at it than I've ever been at anything. But I've always been alright at football, and I'm not thick, I'm reasonably intelligent, but I was never real good at something, and this was something I found I was really good at. And all of a sudden I became obsessed with being the best. I just wanted to be the absolute best, and then that kind of translated from me into black and gold being the best. And I think that became the reason of why I was kind of, I was doing the silly hours and I was putting the effort in, I was doing the awkward stuff. That was my why, and I think that's kind of the main reason. I think for anything, whether you're setting up any type of business, you got a reason to be absolutely going for it, and putting yourself above what you would bother doing from 9 to 5. So that's my number 1, your why. Make sure that if you're going into a business, you've got a reason for doing it, whether it's money, it's crass to say, is it money? Is it to prove everyone wrong? Is it to change the industry in? But you've got to have a reason for going in, and that'll help you in the early days, definitely in that first moments where you're kind of setting up, definitely. Number 2, in my opinion, is the people you got around you. And what by this I mean, if we're talking about a 0 to 50k a year company, or whatever you're going to be, sole trade, whatever you're going to be, is you're not going to have an office full of people. You're not going to have a great big staff. You're going to more often not be yourself. Yourself. So what I'm talking about, the people around you, is your peers, your friendship group, your partner, your girlfriend, your wife, your husband, whatever it is. Take a serious look, and it's got to be brilliant, because you've got to be a team with those people. They're the people that are cheering for you. And having a business is a funny thing, because the early days, I've said, the early days, the first month or 2, everyone's, it's a nice novelty factor, everyone's cheering for you, I want to see Mike do well.
Everyone's sharing your stuff on Facebook.
100%, everyone's feeling everyone's told everyone, but then that goes dry, and then then you got another little kind of moment, which is, what's he doing? He's never going to make this come off. People get sick of seeing you wang on about it. All you're talking to about in the pub is that you're boring the life out.
And the worst thing is when it does, the momentum maybe sort of starts to slow down, and it gets to like month 3 or 4. That's when people start to say, it hasn't taken off the way I thought it was going to take off.
Poor Mike, poor this, poor John, and then all of a sudden you know that again you've got the right people around you. And I'm not sitting in front and saying I've got all the right people around me. I definitely in those years look to the people around me, and I certainly spend more time with the people that are genuinely cheering for me. And I know even within my group that there are people that probably don't want to see me do fantastically well, and that's the next stage. A little bit of hate when people start to see you doing okay, just start to crack it. People get a little bit okay, because it's all right for him, and they forget how much worried he's every single day. You're worried about it, isn't? So then the hate creeps in. So it's important you have the right people around you, and that's your friends. That's, can't change your family, I'm afraid, but and that's your wife, your girlfriend, your husband. You've got to look at them. They've got to be on your side, genuinely on your side, and not be your biggest hater, basically.
Yeah, and the thing is, with the people who are closest to you, so whether it be your missus, your husband, whether it be your parents, generally, like if there is negativity coming towards you quitting your job, for example, it's probably, well, it will be through genuine sort of worry and concern that you know you're throwing away your career to start something that's risky. Do you know what I mean? So it's about making sure that you know in your own heart of hearts, don't worry, I'm going to make this work. Like, there's no way I'm going to give up on this. I'm taking this all the way. Do you know what I mean? As long as you know that in your own mind, like what everyone else thinks, and if they have their doubts, that's fine. As long as you don't have doubts, and you've got the conviction that you're going to take it all the way.
Yeah, and that leads on to the cornerstone number 3, in my opinion. You know, so you've got 1, which is getting, you know, your why. 2 is making sure you've got the right people around you. 3, in my opinion, is, funny enough, not listening to too many people. And that's kind of ties in with number 2. But don't listen too much to other people around you's opinion, because you're not going to, most people don't, you know, most people don't do it, so you shouldn't actually listen to them. It is a risk. Be clear in your mind, it's a risk. And sometimes them not being, you know, not backing you and saying, oh, I'm not sure about this, it's coming from a good place, like you just said. But don't listen too much to those people. But this is the harder one. You can't then listen to the rest of the industry either. So say that you're going into an industry, so obviously a state agency or whatever you're going to go into, a gym or whatever. So go to the early days of Black and Gold because it's easy for me to explain. When I set up, think about when Black and Gold set up 10 years ago and who was actually doing the business. There was Melvin Dames, there was Smart, there was Shakespeare a little bit, wasn't there? And then if you look at the amount of estates there was around the high street,
they've kind of fallen by the wayside since then.
But if you looked at those numbers, that at the time when little Mike was sat in his kitchen looking out, there were monsters that were great, and this, that, the other. If I copied what they had done all those years ago,
you'd have gone as well.
Yeah, no good, absolutely no good whatsoever. There was only a couple of them that were doing the business, and then I'm not saying I was listening to all of what they do, because there's no way I was looking at all of those names there, which I liked them all. They weren't doing it right. They weren't doing it all right. So yeah, but if I would have listened to everything from all of them, I would have had loads of different faults. So I think it's important not to listen to too much industry. You want to listen to about 5% of the industry, because the rest aren't making money. Guarantee you that. Yeah,
and I think that's. I mean, we talk about a state agency as you know, generally because we know it quite well, and obviously it's the sector that we work in. But across all industries, really, if you look at the people that are currently around at the moment, try to focus more on being a differentiator, like having a differentiator, should I say, so that you try and look at the competition and rather than sort of copying it, okay, a couple of the things you'll think, okay, I like the way they do that, that's nice, and pick a couple of the best bits from your competitors maybe that you think work well. But I think that the main thing is, rather than focusing on the competition, focusing on what they're not doing that you could do. Do you know what I mean? And doing something completely different. I think if you break down your goals a little bit so that they don't seem so daunting, do you know what I mean? And you know, I said this to you the other day, like if you say that you want to go and climb Mount Everest, the worst thing you can do is just stand at the bottom of it and just think, right, let's have a crack at it then. Because what you're going to find is, after a week, you've probably not even covered 10% of it. And then you're going to look up and think, or look down and think, is that all I've done in a week? There's no way I'm getting to the top. And you give up. And that's exactly the same reason why 90% of people that you see in the gym in January are not there in February, because they've done exactly that. They've started because all they can see is the end goal of, I want to lose 2 stone or whatever. And when after a month they've only lost a pound, they're gone. So I think if you are going to sort of, let's again use the analogy of trying to lose 2 stone, for example, rather than looking at it as, I want to lose 2 stone in 6 months, think, I want to lose 2 pounds in January. And then when you have hit that, goal, you've got that feeling of success. You've reached something, you've ticked it off. And you know that you are closer to the goal.
But even as well,
into the second month,
your fails aren't so bad. You know, if you just do just under that mark, you know, you just under, you fail. It's only just fail. Where, you know, if you're looking at, you know, the 2 stone mark and you're a pound in, you're like, Jesus Christ, I've got some miles to go.
Exactly.
You know, your fails are even, you know, you're not going to hit it every single. You're not going to crack every one. But no, I think that's a good point. So thanks for tuning in this week. Off the back of our conversation there, I'm genuinely interested to hear from any small business who's just setting up. If you're thinking about it, if you're in the early days, genuinely, I'm here. Drop me a DM. I'm a real business nerd. I'm happy to talk till I'm blue in the face to anyone looking at setting up or in the early days of setting up a business. So drop us a DM and we can have a chat.